Hello everyone and good morning and welcome to today's lecture. So today we are going to cover one important topic, that is due diligence investigation and forensic accounting. So uh, during the lecture again I will be covering the practical questions, more on the practical discussions. I'll be showing you some of the some examples of the forensic reports, fraud investigation reports for your understanding. And at any point in time, if you have any queries, please ask freely, and I will rather suggest please participate as much as you can, because the more you will participate, the more you will learn, about the topic, about the matter, or whichever we will be discussing. Okay, so good morning, Sumit, Namrata, Viraj. Okay, let's start. So first, I will be starting with the investigation. Okay, and then we'll be gradually, shifting to the other topics, and we'll be moving. Okay, so let's start with the first question for today. Central government, by passing a special order, appointed Mr. Sagar as an inspector to conduct an investigation into affairs of General Supply Limited under Section 210 of the Companies Act 2013. So they appointed Mr. Sagar to conduct audit of investigation of General Supply Limited. Okay. Now, Mr. Sagar, while conducting the investigation, asked for additional information of Only Supply Limited, another company basically. Okay. So he asked for the details for the Only Supply Limited, a subsidiary company of General Procurement Limited. So basically, there are three companies into the picture now. So one is Only Supply Limited, which is a subsidiary of General Procurement Limited. One is General Supply Limited. Okay. Now let's see with the further information. General Supply Limited is also a fully owned subsidiary of Procurement Limited. So it becomes a holding company. So General Procurement Limited is a holding company kind of, which is having two subsidiaries, Supply, General Supply and Only Supply. However, the board of directors of Only Supply Limited denied providing any information to Mr. Sagar, as he was not authorized to conduct an investigation into the affairs of the company. Kindly guide the board of directors of the company with respect to the powers under Section 219 of the Companies Act. So, the first question, whether Mr. Sagar is authorized to look into the affairs of a fellow subsidiary company when he's being asked to investigate into the affairs of the particular company, that's the General Supply Limited. So General Supply, I'll just draw a quick chart for you. General Supply Limited and Only Supply Limited, they both have the same holding company, that is General Procurement Limited. Okay, so now investigator is being appointed for this company. He wants to inquire into the affairs of Only Supply, which is a fellow subsidiary. Can Mr. Sagar inquire this detail or not? What do you think? What the provision says basically? Can Mr. Sagar inquire into the affairs of another fellow subsidiary? Come on, guys. Okay, Namrata. And if whatever your answer is, yes or no, I just need a reason why you are, giving that particular answer. Come on, guys. Come on. Do you think he can or he cannot? Correct, Janvi. Very good. Correct, Sumit. Good. Come on, guys. This is a pretty straightforward and easy one. Trust me. Just you need to apply the provision which are relevant in the current scenario, and accordingly you need to answer. Come on, guys, quickly. I want with provision. The answer with the provision, like why you are suggesting this particular answer. Come on. So just apply. See, you need to apply the provision which is there, like section 219 or section, if you see 217, both can be applied. Okay. What the provision says of section, basically section 219 is the prime provision which will be applicable in the current case. What the provision says, and accordingly you need to answer it in the current question. So it is a fellow subsidiary. Do you think it is covered under section 219 or not? Okay, correct. Yes, correct, Sumit. So before I, discuss the answer of this question, before I discuss the answer of this question, I want to change a bit, and then at the together I want to discuss the answer for this particular question. Okay. Now till now we were seeing, okay, these three companies are there. Let's change a bit, and then let me discuss the answer. Now, what if the fellow subsidiary which I'm talking about, okay, is not incorporated India, not incorporated within India, means incorporated outside India, or you can say a company registered outside India. So this particular company, Only Supply Limited, is not an Indian company. Okay. In other words, Only Supply is not an Indian company. Would your answer change or would your answer remain same? Would you change your answer or it will remain same in the current case then? Come on, guys. Again, I'll say this is a direct application of the provision. There is nothing different here. Correct, Janvi? Very good. Good, Janvi. Come on, guys. Will your answer remain same or it will differ? Is the company for which the additional information is being called the only supplier limited is incorporated outside India? Okay, Sumit, good. Just apply the provision, trust me, and you will get the answer. Think, if I apply the provision, will it cover a company which is not incorporated in India or incorporated outside India into the purview of the investigation? So today, let's say for example, a company which is incorporated within India has a fellow subsidiary which is incorporated outside India. Can you cover that particular entity and as per the provisions of the section of Companies Act into the investigation if you are being appointed as an inspector? Absolutely correct, Namrata. Good. Good. Okay. So let me discuss the answer for this particular question. So, uh, if you see investigation, okay, and like section 219, I'm talking about, okay, what section 219 says basically? Section 219 talks about power of inspector to conduct investigation into the affairs of related companies. Power of inspector to conduct investigation into the affairs of related companies. So, just a minute. Just write it here. Power of inspector to conduct investigation into affairs of related company. Okay. Now, when I talk about section 219, so if an inspector is appointed under 210, 212 or 213, okay, if he is appointed under section 210, 212 and 213, then this particular section will be applicable. Okay. In that case, inspector can investigate into the affairs of any body corporate. Okay. Any body corporate. And if you see the definition of the body corporate, which is defined under section 211 of Companies Act only, it says that the first lines are includes a company incorporated outside India. So it includes a company incorporated outside India, subject to the exceptions of any cooperative society or any other body cooperative which is central government has notified in behalf. So generally it includes a company which is incorporated outside India. So as per section 219, inspector can investigate into the affairs of any body corporate which is a subsidiary, holding or subsidiary of its holding. Which is subsidiary or holding or subsidiary of holding means fellow subsidiary. So by this way, inspector's power, inspector can investigate into the affairs of the company which is a fellow subsidiary, maybe, or you can say, doesn't matter whether it is incorporated within India or outside India, but that can get covered under the purview of section 219. So as we saw in our example, both of the cases, it doesn't matter whether the only supplier limited is incorporated within India or outside India. Mr. Sagar, the inspector, can inquire and investigate into affairs of the company. Okay, when he is appointed under section 210, because section 219 will be applicable, and Mr. Sagar can is authorized basically to conduct investigation into the affairs of the fellow subsidiary. So basically, these are the options. First option was Mr. Sagar cannot investigate into the affairs of Only Supply Limited as Only Supply Limited is not a subsidiary of General Supply. Mr. Sagar cannot investigate into the affairs of Only Supply Limited as Only Supply is not a holding of General Supply. Inspector an inspector as per section 219 can investigate the affairs of holding of the company under investigation. That is also wrong. First, both are wrong. He can. Third one, Mr. Sagar can investigate into the affairs of other body corporate which is or has at any relevant time been the company's subsidiary company or holding company or a subsidiary of subsidiary company of holding company subject to the approval of central government. Mr. Sagar can investigate the affairs of any body corporate which is or has at any relevant time been the company's subsidiary company or holding company or a subsidiary company of its holding company subject to the approval of board of directors. So the provision again talks about approval but not of board of directors but of central government, and hence D is not the correct option because it does not require approval of board of directors. The correct option is C. Any doubt with respect to this one? So there's one doubt, like general doubt with respect to like, okay, we have read the provision earlier, but we were not remembering the exact language of the provision. Then how to answer? See, for that only we have these practice sessions. So for example, this particular topic I covered. Okay. Now, once you will practice and participate, you will for sure definitely remember that, okay, this type of question was there. More understanding. So the more you will practice, the more you will remember the provisions, the more you will remember, the details of and nitty-gritties and intricacies of these particular provisions. So basically you need to focus more on the, reading plus practice, not only the reading. Okay. The more you will practice, the more you will understand the provision, the more you will, get the flavor of the questions, provisions and everything. And you will understand the topic, okay, which you have read. I hope I'm clear. Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. If no further doubt, then so again, this was a question that we discussed. The second question, would your answer be different if Only Supply Limited was incorporated outside India? However, General Supply and General Procurement were incorporated within India. So same, whatever I discussed, that section 219, 210, 213, if the inspector is appointed under these sections, then he has a right to investigate into the affairs of any body corporate. And the definition of, as per section 211, body corporate or corporation includes company incorporated outside India, but does not include a cooperative society or any other body corporate which central government may by notification in this behalf has, specified. So these companies will not be, covered. So accordingly, yes, Only Supply will be covered. Now, if I just, extend this particular question, if I extend this particular question, and let's say, for example, only supply limited was a, let's say, for example, foreign branch of company incorporated outside India, a foreign branch of company incorporated outside India. Would your answer be different? Now, when I say foreign branch, this is a foreign company registered in India, foreign company registered in India, and foreign branch of company incorporated outside India. Okay. Let's say only supply limited was a foreign branch of company incorporated outside India. Now this foreign branch was registered as a foreign company in India. So do you think the particular provision will be applicable to this foreign company also? If yes, then why? If yes, then why? Now I'm saying the company which is under investigation is a foreign company. Do you think the provision now will be applicable in the same way? If yes, so the question was, do you think that the provisions will be applicable same if only supply limited was a foreign branch, okay, or you can say foreign company registered in India, a foreign branch registered as a foreign company in India of a company incorporated outside India. Now, it was only a branch which is registered as a foreign company in India. Do you think the provisions will apply in the same manner? I want with reason. If yes, then why? Come on, guys. I need with reason why. Correct, Janvi. Correct, Namrata. But is there any specific provision supporting your answer? Is there any specific provision supporting your answer? No, Sumit, it will not be covered from that way. Come on, guys. Under which provision basically it will be covered? Why do you think it will be covered? Okay. So basically, if I talk about a foreign company, answer is yes, it will be covered under all these things and every into the uh, investigations and everywhere. But this is because there is a specific provision for the foreign company. Okay, that is section. Uh, just a minute. Yeah, section 228. Section 228 of Companies Act that requires investigation of foreign companies. Okay, and that particular section, applies all the other sections in the same way to foreign companies also. So because section 228 extends the investigation to the foreign company also, plus you could say that body corporate again includes every type of corporation. It's a wider term. So by both, it can be covered. Foreign company is covered, or foreign branch of a company incorporated outside India will also be covered in this case. So section 228 plus you could say that, okay, definition of body corporate under section 211. By way of both, I can cover a foreign company. So mix of both. Now, till now we saw, okay, this is a company that can be covered. This company is covered. This company is covered into the investigation. Now you tell me, you are being the inspector. Okay. Now today you have been given chance to investigate a particular, you know, investigation. What will be your steps? Okay. In these particular investigation, how will you formulate a plan for investigation, or what steps you will follow to conduct the investigation? So if I ask, what would be the steps that you will follow to conduct the investigation? What steps you will follow? Pretty simple, straightforward answer. What steps you will follow to conduct the investigation? Simple. Come on, guys. Come on, guys, quickly. Correct, Janvi. Good. Correct, Sumit. But you need to write in detail. Yes. So you can write, yes, that is possible, but it could be, it is required to be, elaborated in more in detail. Currently, Sumit, your answer appears to be a generic one. See, when you are writing an exam with relevant to a particular topic at that point in time, you need to, write in the way that it should look, that it's related and specific to this particular question. Okay. So rather than adopting a general answer, you should, tweak it a bit more to be a specific one. I'll tell you when I'll discuss the answer. Good, Namrata. Come on, guys. So I received three answers, one from Janvi, Sumit, and another from Namrata. Okay. So generally, the steps that are, involved to conduct an investigation, it's similar to the audit one, but more specific one, I'll tell you. So when I talk about the investigation, it is a detailed one, particular to a, particular specific scope. Okay, specific objectives. So when I say specific scope and specific objectives, I need to understand what are those specific scopes and objectives for which I am being appointed as an inspector. So determination of objective, okay, or you could say as basically understanding and establishment of scope. So once you understand and establish the scope of the particular investigation, you need to, same as we do for the audit, we need to formulate the investigation program the way we do the audit program, but in more detail. So formulate the investigation program. Once I have formulated the program, okay, that how I'm going to conduct the investigation, the next step will be to perform the, investigation or collection of the evidences. Okay, so either I could, do an examination of various records to gather, to evidence. So I could say examination and study of various records. Examination, study of various records. Okay, by reference to the appropriate evidence means I need to gather evidence or to, to the reference to the evidence. Okay, that, okay, what evidence I can get from that. Fourth step, once I have, examine the records, study the records, I gather something, data, I need to analyze, process, and, perform the interpretations of the finding. because in case of investigation, it's not straightforward. You need to connect the dots. Okay, I have gathered this data, I have studied the records, I have studied the agreement. Then I need to connect the dot to make it full circle. Okay, what is it is, is reflecting, whether it's a circle, triangle, square, or after connecting the dots, I will be able to understand the clear picture for which I am doing the investigation. So I'll analyze, process, and interpret the findings. Analysis, processing, and interpretation of findings. The last step will be preparation of the report and drawing of conclusions. Okay. Now, these are the steps for the investigation. Now, one of the question was, can we, just write objective, program, examination, analysis, and reporting? Okay, like for example, I'll just highlight it. Like objective, program, examination, analysis, and reporting. Can I write just these steps, these words as a step? You could write, that is also correct, but writing more specific to the question is always appropriate. Like for example, writing only objective in compared to determination of objective and establishment of scope is not that much, giving clarity. I could say, okay, program, but formulating the investigation program is more specific in the current scenario. So you need to always write an answer which is more specific than the general one. Okay. So accordingly, you need to write the answer based on the question and what is asked. So these are the steps that are required to be followed while performing an investigation. Any doubt with this? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys, with respect to this one? No? Okay. If no doubts, then let's proceed to the next question. Just a minute. Okay. So the next question is, Mr. Sagar was appointed an inspector to conduct an investigation into misappropriation of inventory done by the warehouse employees of General Supply Limited. Considering the inherent limitation of any assignment and the volume of transactions, it was not possible for Mr. Sagar to check cent percent inventory inwards and outwards. Mr. Sagar adopted a statistical sampling approach. Management of the company was not happy with this and requested Mr. Sagar to rectify the approach. Kindly guide management of the company or Mr. Sagar. So, in the current case, whether applying the statistical sampling approach, considering the inherent limitation and the volume of the transaction, inward and outward inventory transactions, is appropriate because management is not happy with the approach, or what could be done by Mr. Sagar? So do you think the approach being followed by Mr. Sagar is appropriate or not? There's a huge volume of the transaction, plus there could be inherent limitations that a person cannot check everything. So what do you think? Statistical sampling approach is appropriate? Good, Namrata. Very good. Do you think this approach is appropriate, or there could be another approach? Good, Janvi. Very good. So here a sampling has been done, statistically sample, okay, and accordingly test checks have been performed with respect to the inventory outward or inward, where there was a investigation into the misappropriation of inventory. Do you think the current method is considering the inherent limitations and the huge voluminous of the transactions? Correct, Sumit. Very good. Okay. Before I discuss the answer for this particular question, let's tweak the question and then we'll see the answer. Now, the reason of the investigation in the current case was misappropriation of the inventory done by warehouse employees. So that was the reason for which the investigation was done. I'll give you another question by. So everything being same in the above example, the appointment of Mr. Sagar for investigation was done to validate whether the profit disclosed in audited financial statements for FY 22-23 is correct. So everything being the same, okay. Just only the reason I'm changing that the Mr. Sagar, the appointment Mr. Sagar for investigation was done to validate, basically, to validate the profit disclosed in the audited financial statements for FY 22-23 is correct or not. So that was the reason. And again, he applied, statistical sampling approach here also. So there are two cases. One, there is a misappropriation of inventory. Another, there is a validation of profit disclosed in the audited financial statement. Now, would your answer remain same or it will change? He has applied in both cases the statistical sampling approach. Applied statistical sampling approach. So you just need to understand, like, whether in both of the cases your answer will remain same or it will differ. Good journey. Good, Namrata. Do you think in the first case also he has used statistical sampling method? In the second case also he has used the statistical sampling method. Do you think in both of the cases it's appropriate to use the method considering the inherent limitations and the volume of the transactions, or he should adopt a different strategy in both of the cases or any one of the cases? Good, Sumit. Come on, guys. Okay, let me discuss the answer then. So, in the first case, when I am actually, investigating the misappropriation of assets at that particular point in time, for me, it is not appropriate to use the statistical sampling method or approach. I'll tell you the reason why. Here, I'm doing the investigation to understand what is the misappropriation of inventory or asset is done. Okay. When I'm identifying anything, whether it's a misappropriation of inventory or any other asset, I need to identify in a holistic view, like, okay, for example, how much inventory has been misappropriated, who was involved, okay, when it was done, whether it's done in the current year or it's being carried forward since long. So I need to understand all the aspects of the fraud. So basically, I could say a fraud is being, done. And even if I want to report on a fraud, I need to have all the details. So this investigation is kind of a fraud investigation. And when there is a fraud investigation or such kind of investigations, sampling is not appropriate. Reason because that will not give me the appropriate value, details, facts, findings to conclude about the scope. Okay, my scope is to report on the misappropriation of inventory. Can you validate a misappropriation of inventory just by performing the test checks? That okay, we have done the test checks and this is the amount that we think is being misappropriated. Answer is no. That is a speculation, pure speculation. Today, for example, if someone has been missed out who was a prime culprit in the case of fraud, then how will you say that, okay, sampling was correct? And how much sample size you will consider? Because generally, when we do the sampling, we have a risk. We do based on the materiality. Okay. And even, when even in the audit, when you see there is a fraud risk, you do the, you increase your risk assessments. Okay. You make it as a significant risk or fraud risk. Fraud risk are by default significant risk. Okay. And accordingly, you apply your sampling methodology or, you try to gather more evidence to get a comfort that there is no fraud. But here we have identified there is a fraud. That's why we are being appointed. Hence, sampling will not be correct. Now, when I say, validating the profit disclosed in the audited financial statement, yes, this is an investigation, but this is not a fraud investigation or kind of an investigation where we need to present, the facts and detail appropriately. So based on the scope of the investigation, we need to decide the strategy. Applying statistical sampling approach in the second case, where I want to validate whether the profit disclosed in the audited financial statement for FY 22-23 is correct or not. For that purpose, I can adopt statistical sampling approach again. Like there are a few things I need to consider. Number one, what is the risk I'm understanding here? Okay, is there any past trend or any issue already being identified? What is the materiality I'm looking here? Like for which I'm doing the sampling. Okay. Number three, like whether what kind of assurance and what kind of report is being expected from the inspector. So based on this, if the conditions permit and based on the audit inspector's professional judgment, if it permits, yes, I can do a statistical sampling approach, but subject to conditions. Again, I'll say subject to conditions. Yes, I can perform the statistical sampling. So when I talk about fraud investigation, that's a big no. I cannot, because I want to report an amount in the whole detail of the fraud, for which sampling is not appropriate. Any doubt? Any doubt with respect to this? Yes, Sumit. If subject to the conditions, like, if the materiality is, within the limit, or I can say there is no risk or low risk or medium risk even, okay, not a significant risk or a fraud risk. Or if I can say there are no past findings in this particular area, okay, in that case, or the level of assurance from this particular area which is required is limited. In that case, yes, I can use the sampling technique and, statistical sampling technique, and accordingly I can gather the evidence, understand the area. But in case of fraud, no. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt with respect to this? Any doubt? Very good question. Okay. Uh, okay, we were going to that topic only, but yes, we can take it now. So the question was how to investigate in the first case when there is a fraud investigation, or you can say misappropriation or theft of inventory. Okay, let me reword the questions and then we'll discuss. So uh, now, if you want to investigate this particular fraud, okay, let's go to that. Let's come to this particular point. Misappropriation of inventory. Very good one. So if I want, like, let's say, for example, uh, uh, inventory is there, okay? Like misappropriation of inventory is being suspected, okay? Then what steps I can do, or what things I need to check to understand whether there is a fraud or with respect to misappropriation of inventory or not. So you can, the question is basically procedures slash uh, areas that the inspector needs to review in case of suspected misappropriation of inventory. So when there is a suspected misappropriation of inventory, why I'm using the word suspected? Reason because when it's a identified fraud, there's no option to full details, identify the case, report the details. Okay. But when there is a suspected, okay, again, suspected misappropriation of inventory at that particular point in time, okay, at that particular point in time, what procedures or areas an inspector needs to review to understand basically, okay, whether there's a fraud. So you tell me the procedures or areas that a inspector needs to perform. What you will do, okay, I give you this particular task. Go and verify whether there is a I have a suspect that there is a misappropriation of inventory. What you will do? Is anyone facing audio issues over here? No. Sumit, could be at your end also, like uh, I request you, recheck the internet connectivity. Could be possible at your end. Okay. So coming back to the question, what you will do to validate, the suspected case of misappropriation of inventory? Come on, guys. Very good, Janvi. Very good. Excellent. Remember, I'm talking about suspected case, huh? Not the full. Good, Sumit. What you will do to validate the suspected case of misappropriation of inventory? What steps basically you will perform? Come on, guys. Okay, good. Good, Sumit. Correct, Namrata. Very good. Okay. So, when I talk about suspected case of misappropriation of inventory, I can say there is a chance of fraud. Okay. Potential uh, chance of fraud. Now, in that case, what I need to do when I'm investigating in such a scenario, first of all, I need to, understand, okay, what kind of inventory fraud I'm suspecting here. Okay. What kind of inventory fraud I'm suspecting here? There are multiple kind of, there could be multiple kind of inventory frauds. One could be like, the inventory is stolen directly. Second is a false sales scheme where you show a sale, you take the inventory by your own and you create a fictitious data in front of that. Okay. Or you might, create a fictitious cash receipt in front of that. Or you could show, uh, receiving, there is a another way of doing a fraud is purchase and receiving scheme. Okay. What is done in purchasing and receiving scheme? Basically, manipulation of the purchases. Like let's for example, I received 100 quantities, but I'll record only 80 quantities. So I'll manipulate the purchase or receiving quantities so that the excess quantity I can take it away. Or you could say there is another kind of scheme which is purchase return scheme. I'll show 100 quantity which I have purchased, but I'll show okay 20 were returned because of the quality issue. But I never return that 20. I take it home that 20 quantities. Okay. Again, falsifying of documents and there could be a lot of schemes with respect to inventory. Let's say for example, I show that okay inventory was destroyed, damaged, obsolete, non-moving. It was scrapped because of any reason. Okay. So by this way, I take a good inventory, convert it into a scrap, and I actually they are fine. I take it home and the scrap, I show okay, it was sold in the scrap. So I might bring the cash into the system, but that is very nominal in point of view of a scrap. So there could be a lot of things. Okay. Directly writing of the inventory. I could say okay, because of the rain, inventory got damaged, or because of XYZ factor, the inventory got damaged and I written it off. But in actual, I have taken the inventory home. Okay. So a lot of schemes could be there with respect to the inventory fraud, misappropriation of inventory. Now, there is no one standard strategy to identify the misappropriation, suspected misappropriation. But there could be certain things that we could do to understand whether there is a misappropriation of inventory or not. Number one, I could check whether the inventory records are tempered, altered, or any such thing. So I need to check the perpetual inventory records. Then I need to check the shipping documents, okay, with respect to the inwards and outwards. So by viewing the shipping documents, I could say, okay, whether the shipping documents are matching with the sales order or sales that has been done. Is there any change with respect to the shipping documents? Okay, is the shipping document matching with the purchase order or purchase that has been done? Okay, is whatever the quantity was received is matching as per the shipping order. So GRN and shipping documents are matching or not. So accordingly, I need to see the shipping documents. I need to perform physical inventory count. I can perform analytical procedures. Simple analytical procedures like, I could say, okay, this was the purchase. This is the sale, cost of sale, basically. Okay. This is the write-off or anything. This was the opening inventory, and that should give me the closing inventory. And accordingly, if closing inventory is matching with the records, that is fine. If not, then I can, see what is the gap, what is the difference, and why it is there. Then I need to see segregation of duties. Segregation of duties means who is responsible for recording these, inward, outward, okay, along with the, raising the sales order, purchase order. So what are the duties which are assigned to a person, or like, what all accesses a person has? Can I alter the sales order or purchase order at the same time I have access to the inventory receiving and shipping module? If I have, then I alter the sales GRN, or along with the document. So again, I need to understand what accesses and what are the segregation of duties which are present. Is there any risk with respect to the segregation of duties? Is a person is having more access than he's supposed to have? Okay, I could also consider like whether the inventory procedures or inventory count within the organization count procedures exist or not. Whether the company has the listing of the inventory lying with the third party. There could be scenarios. Okay, inventory has been given to the third party, but it has been absconded. It has been already embezzled, or it is not present with the third party, or even the third party could be fake. Okay, so whether there is a procedures within the company, controls within the company to validate such scenario. So one point could be that, okay, what are the controls present in inventories process? Now, what controls I need to check whether they're design and operative effectiveness both with respect to that. Okay. And then what is the method of recording the inventory? Again, I need to see valuation method of inventory. Is there any problem with respect to the valuation method? Okay. How inventories are identified? Sometimes tags are used. Then, sometimes barcodes are used. So how management identify which inventory is lying in which warehouse, whether there's a single warehouse, multiple warehouse, whether the inventory is issued on consignment, or if yes, then what is the current scenario? Okay, whether the inventory is located at the remote location, then how it is being counted. Okay, how the work in progress is being accounted, or how the work is progress being valued. So there are a lot many things which can be done, and some of the things are these. From these methods, you can either identify easily the suspected misappropriation of inventory. Any doubt? Any doubt with respect to this? So when I talk about segregation of duties, I also talk about maker checker concept. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys, with respect to this? So this is how you can, perform these steps or perform these particular procedures to understand what is the suspected, whether there's any suspected misappropriation of inventory or not. Okay. If no further doubts, then what I propose is let's take a quick 10-minute break, and after the break, we can gather back and continue the session. Okay. Let's take quick 10-minute break. Hello everyone. Everyone, welcome back. Let's continue the. Uh, Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's continue the discussions. So just now we saw with respect to the fraud examination, with respect to the suspected misappropriation of inventory. Okay. Now let's go to some due diligence topic and understand, and then we'll come back to the forensic analytics, forensic accounting. Okay. So again, one good question I would say. Opal India Stones Limited appointed Mr. Sundar and Company. So Opal India Stones, hereinafter Opal India, appointed Sundar and Company, a chartered accountant firm, to conduct the financial due diligence of Gems India Limited. Hereinafter Gems India. Okay. Opal India was planning to acquire Gems India for the purpose of horizontal expansion, and Gems India was engaged in the procurement and polishing of gems and diamonds. Gems India was having 35% market share in this category. Opal was into procurement and dealing with rare gemstones. Both companies were having a good reputation in the market. However, the nature of product and the cost involved in the regular gems market was trending compared to the rare gemstone market. So the regular gems were trending more compared to the rare gemstones. As a result, Opal India, before acquiring Gems India, decided to go for financial due diligence, under which it is expecting that the financial due diligence auditor is required to perform due diligence of the areas, including but not limited to future performance, company's operation, management decision making, and everything. Also, Mr. Sundar, the signing partner of Sundar and Company, during his initial kickoff meeting, presented and emphasized to the directors that the strategy which is being used for the due diligence is standard strategy designed for all due diligence processes and assignments. Also, he explained that this strategy covers all the generic areas only that are sufficient for the due diligence. Based on this standard strategy, the following areas will be covered under the due diligence: brief history and target of the target company, accounting policies, review of financial statement, financial projections, statutory compliance. The directors of Opal India were also insisting to cover the following areas like cash flow, taxation, management. However, the signing partner denied, including the same as these cannot be part of due diligence because these are not covered in the generic areas which are part of the standard strategy. Okay. Moreover, Mr. Sundar explained that while conducting the due diligence, the team will predicate the fraud has occurred in the company. This will help the team to alert on the small details. Now, question number one. You as a part of a due diligence team kindly clear things with which all areas can be covered in the due diligence. Now, in the standard strategy, these areas are covered, but management wants to cover cash flow, taxation, and management and employees. Do you think these areas, the management which want to cover like cash flow, taxation, and employees can be covered into these areas or not? So areas which are already covered, other than that, the areas which are requested by management can be covered into due diligence or not? Pretty easy. Can we cover these areas or not, guys? Which management is requesting? Good, Sumit. Can we cover or not? Very important, guys, and very easy, pretty easy, I'll say. Come on, quickly. Can I cover? Good, Janvi. Can I cover employees related things also in due diligence? There are a lot of laws around the employees, employee data, privacy, and everything. Do you think I can cover employee related data in due diligence? Cash flow, taxation. Come on, guys. So just it's a pretty easy one. Just we need to apply the basic knowledge of the due diligence and need to answer the question. It's a basic concept application of for the due diligence. Basic concept application. To think which are the areas that can be covered in the due diligence or are usually covered in the due diligence, and currently which areas are covered. So you need to correlate between both of them, like areas that can be covered and areas which are currently covered. Come on, guys. Basically, see, when I talk about due diligence, okay, when I talk about due diligence, usually due diligence is having a much wider approach. Due diligence has a wider approach compared to normal audit, or it can it covers a lot of areas. Now, when I talk about due diligence, usually due diligence covers history, target companies, accounting policies, financial statement, taxation, cash flow, employees, financial projections, statutory compliance, hidden liabilities, and a lot of things. A lot of things. There is no bar upon any area when it comes to the due diligence. So when a due diligence is carried out, usually there is an agreement between the company for which the due diligence is carried out and on which the due diligence is carried out. And in that agreement, both companies agrees that, okay, they will provide the data for the due diligence. Now, usually those agreements are signed or drafted in such a way that there is no exclusion. That means that if the person who is performing the due diligence wants to review any of the area, he can get the data based on that particular contract. Okay. So usually the terms of engagement, the contract based on which the due diligence is carried out is drafted in such a way that, it gives full access to the company which is acquiring or in position to acquire or planning to acquire, to understand whether he should acquire the company or not. So if I talk about exclusions, there are none. There are none unless and until anything specified in the agreement, but otherwise, usually there are none. So, yes, the areas which the management is saying can be included and should be included in the due diligence. Okay. So, the answers which are no, like no one, are not correct. And yes, the correct answer is A. These areas are critical too and they should be included. Question number 2. You, as a part of due diligence team, kindly clarify whether the following standard strategy is advisable for each due diligence assignment. So the team is currently following a standard strategy that is they have developed for the due diligence. The strategy which is being used for the due diligence is the standard strategy designed for all the due diligence process. Do you think following this standard strategy because it's a standard device for all due diligence, tested, and even used at a lot of due diligences? So do you think what do you think? Sumit, it is Janvi, it is on the page 16.5. If you look, point number G, you at there you will be able to find. So page 16.5, point number G. Do you think the standard strategy is good to go from a due diligence point of view? What do you think? Do you think the standard strategy which is currently being used for the due diligence is appropriate? So they are using a standard strategy which is designed for all the due diligence process, which is tested, tried, and used. So they are using the same strategy. They are not, reinventing the wheel, I would say. So do you think this is the correct approach? Janvi, alternatively, you can look into page number 16.10. At there, there's a point G, 16.10 also in the module. Good, Janvi, with respect to your answer. Good, Sumit. So do you think strategy can save time also? Because and I'm not required to devise a new strategy, and I'm not required to do anything new. There's a standard strategy, quickly apply, get it done, matter closed, rather than the reinventing the wheel, designing the strategy and everything. So it will save time also. Do you think this is appropriate, or I should go with a you know fresh look? I should devise a strategy and then I perform the due diligence. What do you think, guys? Come on. That's the basic, I will say, application of the concept for the due diligence. Come on, guys, I'm waiting for the answer. Come on, guys, quickly. What do you think with respect to the due diligence? Standard, non-standard, quick. Okay. Generally, when I talk about due diligence, okay, uh, you might be thinking, okay, we can follow the standard strategy. What is the harm in following that? But see, when I talk about due diligence usually is done with respect to, deals, transactions, mergers, acquisitions, okay, in such areas. And at that particular point in time, if there is a, if I follow a standard strategy, then it will be incorrect because each and every deal, each and every merger or acquisition is different. Okay. So in that case, it is not appropriate to follow a particular standard strategy. If I follow a standard strategy, then it will be incorrect because each deal, each merger, each acquisition, where this particular due diligence is being followed, okay, or due diligence being is done, is different. Okay, is different. So in that case, following a standard strategy is also not appropriate. What I need to do is when I'm going for a due diligence, I need to, I need to see the company, I need to see the market, geography, price levels, and each situation is unique. Accordingly, it is not appropriate for me to use a standard strategy for all the due diligences. Okay. That's why I should not use the standard strategy. I should use a dynamic, a different strategy for performing the due diligence for each and every kind of deal, each and every kind of assignment, because the scope will change and it will change drastically. Trust me, from one due diligence to another, the scope changes drastically. The time period that you have to conduct the due diligence, the period in which you need to issue the report, the way in which you are expected to issue the report, everything is different. And accordingly, if these things are different, your assignment is different, objective is different, your methods will be different, your reporting will be different, then how can you follow a standard strategy? Hence, following a standard strategy is incorrect. That's why answer number B, C, and D, where standard strategies advocated is wrong. The correct answer is answer A, which says that you need to devise a different strategy for each of the due diligence assignment. Okay. Now, the third question is Mr. Sundar explained that, while conducting the due diligence, the team will predicate the fraud has occurred in the company. This will help the team to be alert in the small details. Do you think this is the correct approach? Do you think this is the correct approach for due diligence? Understanding and, uh, currently the team is starting the due diligence by understanding, okay, the fraud is occurred, so that, they can focus on the small details. Do you think this is the correct approach or not? In case of a due diligence, should I predicate that the fraud has occurred or should I not? Come on, guys. Come on, guys, quickly. Do you think this is the correct approach or not? Correct, Janvi. Very good. Correct, Sumit. Very good. See, guys, this is the due diligence, not the forensic or fraud investigation. Okay. Now, under due diligence, there are different scope, usually not the fraud investigation. Okay. And hence, unless and until your scope includes fraud investigation or suspected fraud investigations, you should not start your due diligence with the intention that, okay, the fraud has occurred. You should not do that, basically. As a result, doing this, going with a mindset that, okay, the fraud has occurred at the start of the due diligence is not appropriate. Accordingly, what you should do is you should start your due diligence with a mindset, okay, I am performing, this is the objective, rather than the mindset with, okay, the fraud is occurring, I need to check every detail. No. Okay, so going with a mindset where the fraud is occurring is not at all appropriate. So this is not correct approach. Not correct. Okay. So this approach is not correct. Now, I want to show you guys with respect to due diligence. Just a minute. See, this is the kind of due diligence report that I'm going to show you. Okay. Now, from where I'm taking the reference? I'm taking the reference from SEBI issue of capital and disclosure requirements regulation. This is the ICDR regulations, not the LODR. Okay. So ICDR regulations 2018, therein there is a lot of requirements with respect to the due diligence. I'll show you. Again, this is just for your knowledge purpose. Okay. Just to show you how the due diligence is there and how it is, required, reported. For example, filing draft of the document or offer document. For that, a due diligence certificate in Form A along with a schedule in Form A of Schedule 5 is required to be submitted by the lead manager. So lead manager needs to submit a due diligence certificate. At various places, you will find such kind of requirements in, basically in case of issue of capital under this regulation. For example, again, the same regulation I'm talking about, filing of draft. So in another case, a due diligence certificate as per Form C of Schedule 5 at the time of filing of the offer document. So there are various due diligence, certificates which are given or prescribed under this particular, regulations. For example, post-issue reports. So after, filing post-issue reports, in case of issue of capital, a due diligence certificate is required to be submitted. So, the lead manager needs to submit a post-issue form this. So again, a lot of requirements with respect to the due diligence certificate. Now I'll show you the due diligence certificate itself. So how it is. So that you can get some idea about the, what are being reported in the due diligence. And again, this is not the standard one. They are based on case to case. See, this is the due diligence certificate, format A, to be given by the lead manager along with the draft offer or draft letter. Okay, there are multiple regulations involved in which it is required to be given. So see the wordings of this particular certificate. This is just for your knowledge. We have examined various documents, including those related to the litigation, including commercial disputes, patent disputes, dispute with collaborators, etc., and other materials, while finalizing the offer document for the subject of the issue. On the basis of such examination and discussion with the issuer, its director, and other officers, other agencies, and independent verification of the statement concerning the object of the issue, price justification, content of the document, and other papers furnished by the issuer, we confirm the draft of the letter filed with the board is in conformity with the documents, material, paper, which are material to the issue. All the material legal requirement relating to the issue as specified by the board, the central government, and incompetent authority has been complied with. Material disclosures made in the draft or offer draft letter, okay, applicable are, same and accordance with the requirements of the Companies Act. So they verify all the details, like we have satisfied ourselves about the capabilities of underwriters, written consent from the promoters has been obtained, all details, a lot of things which are, involved with respect to the issue of capital. So this is around the issue of capital. So you will see points with respect to that only. And this is being certified by the lead manager. Again, same format of due diligence certificate to be given by the lead manager with pre-filled draft offer letter. Same, things will be there around the issue of capital. Okay, and the things will be mentioned in this way. When it is like format of due diligence certificate to be given by the debenture trustee, so it will revolve around the debentures related things and all that areas around the debenture. Again, say for example, if I'm performing in first case, the areas are different. If I'm performing in the second case, areas are different. So accordingly, I will be reporting different matters. So format of due diligence certificate to be given by the lead manager at the time of filing of updated DRHP. So if when DRHP is being filed, due diligence certificate format, due diligence to be given. Okay, then format of due diligence certificate to be given by the lead manager at the time of disclosure of material events after filing the offer document. So again, area is different, the content will be different. So a lot of due diligence certificate for diligence is different. Its reporting requirement is different. Its content is different. So objective and scope will be different. And if objective and scope differs, then how can I use a standard strategy to perform the due diligence? Okay. Hence, each due diligence requires a new strategy based on the scope, based on the reporting requirement, based on the regulations or laws which are applicable beneath that particular due diligence. Okay. Any doubt? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys, with respect to this? Okay. If no doubts, let's proceed further on this topic. Now, again, with respect to the due diligence itself, okay, with respect to the due diligence, uh, the another thing I want to discuss is about, the way the due diligence is carried out. So we saw the type of due diligence. We saw what could, standard strategy will not be applicable in case of due diligence. Then I want you guys to answer, how will you plan a due diligence? What you will do to perform a due diligence? So what steps you will follow to perform a due diligence? How you will conduct a due diligence, basically. So how to conduct a due diligence? Simple. How will you conduct due diligence? What steps you will perform? Come on, guys, quickly. What steps you will perform to conduct a due diligence? Pretty simple. What steps you will perform to conduct the due diligence? Okay, good, Janvi. Come on, guys. What steps you will perform to conduct the due diligence? Correct, Vimal? And I have already discussed this particular answer of this particular question in an indirect way, but I have already discussed. So you just need to, think what we have discussed till now and, what could be the answer. So how will you perform the due diligence? How will you conduct the due diligence basically? Very important. Because we know, okay, what is due diligence? Separate strategy, fine, we understood. Okay, these are the areas that can be covered. But how will you conduct that? How will you conduct that due diligence? Just focus, like this, the discussions that we had, and you can have the answer. Correct, Vimal. Very good. Correct, Sumit. Good. Okay. So when I talk about conducting a due diligence, I can, divide the due diligence into three phases. Okay. Pre-due diligence, post-due diligence, and while performing the due diligence. Okay. Due diligence and the negotiation. Now, when I talk about due diligence, usually, first of all, when I say pre-due diligence period, what I need to do is I need to understand the scope and objective of due diligence. Okay. I need to understand the scope and objective of the due diligence. That can be done by discussing with the clients. Okay. I'll discuss with the clients. I'll understand the transaction for which I am being, appointed to conduct a due diligence. Who will be coordination, who will be doing coordination and everything. So again, for that, I will perform discussions, inquiry, okay, understanding the transactions. So I'll do all these things to understand the objective and the scope of the due diligence, basically. Okay. Uh, then the next step will be for me to identify, okay, like what could be the specific or target areas with for the due diligence. Specific target areas. So I need to understand areas for due diligence. Okay. Next thing that I need to do while conducting the due diligence or planning for a due diligence, once I have the target area, once I have the objective, once I have the scope, I had the discussion with the teams and need to perform the due diligence. And when I talk about specific target areas, that is the objective for my due diligence that I need to verify. Now, for the specific target areas, I need to devise a strategy for the due diligence. I could say I will work on site. I will, use questionnaires. I will, do analytics and a lot of things. So to specific target areas, I need to devise a strategy for the due diligence. Okay. I will devise a strategy for the due diligence, which is specific and addresses the objective and target area appropriately. Okay. Once I do that, I will implement the strategy. In other words, I will conduct due diligence. Will gather data and information with respect to the data information to conclude something that will be the evidence for me. So analysis of data and information to conclude, okay, with respect to evidence that I need. Once I have the evidence, then I can go with the final step, that is the due diligence reporting. I need to understand what was the reporting requirement, how the reporting is required to be done. Okay, what is the reporting requirement? What is the format that I need to use for the reporting? And accordingly, I need to present the report. So this is how you will do the due diligence. Now, the first two, you can say pre-due diligence. Third one is the due diligence process or phase. And the fourth one is post due diligence. Okay. So by this way, you can devise pre actual the due diligence when you cover and the post due diligence. This is how you will conduct a due diligence. Any doubt? Correct, Vimal. Good. So this is how you will conduct a full due diligence. Any doubt with respect to this? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? No? Okay. If no doubts, then let's proceed to the next question. Okay. So the next question is, assuming in the above example, the employees are paid on hourly basis, which is a standard practice in the industry. Mr. Sagar was in charge of polishing department in GEMS India and was responsible for booking the hours of each polishing labor. But in GEMS industry, diamonds and GEMS industry, you need a polishing guy. Okay. Now polishing labor was, Mr. Sagar was responsible for polishing department and he was responsible for booking polishing hours of polishing labors. While performing the due diligence, you identified that Mr. Sagar was booking more hours for each polishing labor than what they actually worked. Once the polishing labor used to get their paychecks for the higher amount, Mr. Sagar used to collect 80% of the excess amount from them in cash and 20% was their commission for not disclosing the fact. Now, GEMS India has approached you to perform a fraud investigation, okay, to gather appropriate evidence by using forensic accounting skills. Also, GEMS India and Opal India have approached Mr. You can give in the current scenario to avoid such instances of fraud. Like, what steps should be taken by the team to avoid such fraud? Like, you need to do fraud investigation for forensic by using the forensic accounting skills. After fraud investigation, when you will prepare, there is a segment in the report, recommendations, what you will recommend to the team. So you need to tell what is your recommendation with respect to the fraud which has been identified. What team should do? The team means the Opal India and Gems India. What should be done? Come on, guys. What you will suggest in the current case, the preventive measures or the measures that the recommendations as in forensic fraud investigator or forensic accountant. What measures you will suggest? So what measures you will suggest to the team of Opal India and Jebs India to avoid this kind of fraud? To avoid this kind of fraud, basically. Come on, guys. What you will suggest? Any answers? At least try that. Okay, what suggestions you can give to avoid such kind of frauds? So in the current case, while performing the diligence, you identified that Mr. Sagar, who was responsible for, who was in charge of polishing department in Gems India, okay, and responsible for booking of hours of each polishing labor, okay, what he was doing is booking more hours for each polishing labor. And when they were getting paychecks of higher amount, Mr. Sagar used to collect 80% of the excess amount from them. What you should suggest to them, or what you will suggest to Gems India to avoid this kind of fraud? Absolutely correct, Janvi. Very good. See, the very here is that when I'm suggesting to a particular, any entity, I need to first, highlight them. Okay, what kind of fraud scheme it is. Okay, and if you want to answer this particular question, you can decide, okay, like, but first explain what kind of fraud scheme it is and why this happens. And accordingly, your details, like, for example, this fraud happens because there's a missing segregation of duty, because there's a missing this thing, because there's a missing that thing. Okay. And by explaining the fraud scheme, you can explain what is missing, and accordingly, you can suggest them what they can do. For example, in case of fraud scheme, let's see the answer. In case of fraud scheme, where the misappropriation of funds occur through falsification of payroll hours or through other factors on which the payroll cost is dependent, okay, are normally known as a falsified hours or salary fraud schemes. When discussing payroll frauds that are involves overstated hours for overpayment, the forensic accountant needs to understand how the employee time is recorded at the work for payment of wages. So if I want to suggest something, first I need to understand how the fraud is done. Time is generally either recorded through clocks where the employee punch in and punch out by inserting a card into the device at the beginning and at the end of the work. In more advanced systems, the systems and ERP might automatically track the time of employees spent on the job based on the course or through some other tracking methods. When hours are recorded manually, then the forensic accountant needs to understand the delegation and the segregation of responsibility. So basically, while reviewing the segregation of responsibility, the forensic accountant might need to check payroll preparation, approval, disbursement, distribution, bank reconciliations relating to the payroll and other HR functions should be separate. So if I can identify, okay, these things are separate, one will be that recommendation. I will recommend them, okay, please keep these functions separate so that you can, avoid such kind of fraud schemes. Plus, I can give them, okay, these are the red flags that you should look for, okay, to, indicator for the suggestive fraud or for the potential fraud. Like payroll personal records are maintained independently of payroll and timekeeping functions. Is payroll accounting function independent? Any are references and background checks for new hires being performed or not? Signed authorization on files of employees. Bonus, commissions, and overtimes are approved in advance. Okay. Sick leave, vacations, holidays are reviewed for compliances with the company policy. Then change to payrolls are not made unless personnel department sends for approval. Okay. Appropriate forms completed and signed for by the employee for authorization for payroll, deductions or withholding or exemptions. Then, like if a time clock is used, are time cast punched by employee, signed by a supervisor. Okay. Whether, payroll periodically check against the personal records for the terminated employees, whether terminated employees are still being paid or not, or for fictitious employees, are payroll registered, reviewed and approved before disbursements, like with respect to the name of employee, hours work, wage rate, deductions, agreement with payroll checks, unusual items. So there are a lot many things which can be seen or which can give you idea about the red flags in the payroll scheme. For example, employees paid by check out of a separate bank payroll account. Okay, payroll checks are pre-numbered and issued in numerical sequence. Whether they have a custody of cash funds, who has the custody of cash funds, who prepares the payroll, whether they are signed by designation officials or not. Okay, distribution of payroll rotated periodically to different employees. Okay, payroll bank accounts are reconciled. Then again, adequate payroll, adequate procedure exit for timely and accurately preparation and filing of payroll returns. Okay, a lot of things are there, and accordingly, these areas can give you the red flags. And the most important part is the segregation of duties with respect to payroll preparation, approval, disbursement, distributions, and other SR functions. Which can help to prevent these kind of frauds. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys, with respect to this? Okay. If no doubts, let's proceed to the next question for today. Now, just a minute. The next question is, kindly guide Mr. Sundar with respect to certain technology-based digital forensic techniques that a forensic accountant may use to identify the misstatement or defecations, which will be discovered on the timely basis. So, which technology-based and digital forensic techniques a forensic accountant can use? So, name some technology-based or digital forensic techniques a technology accountant can use, basically, to identify misappropriation or fraud schemes. So, which are certain techniques? Which are those techniques which can be used by forensic accountant? Digital techniques, digital forensic techniques, basically. Okay, good, Sumit. Correct, Janvi. Good, very good. Correct, Sumit. Come on, guys. What could be the techniques that can be used? Technology-based digital forensic techniques that can be used by Mr. Sundar in case of, fraud investigation. Come on, guys. Okay. So let's discuss the answer of this particular question from the module itself, because in module it has been explained in a very appropriate manner and a very good manner, and even the module itself is the base for us. So let's discuss the answer for this particular question directly from the module study material. Now, based on digital forensic techniques. So there are certain techniques which are digital, which are very important, because see, in today's time, most of the data is digitally, is stored digitally, either on the cloud, either on the ERP system, locally, but that is on digitally data. Okay, so in that case, what could be these tools that can be used by a person while doing digital forensics. Okay, okay. So what he can do is he can use cross drive analysis. He can use drive analysis. He can review the deleted files, statistics, forensic, stenography, any case, MD5, tracking log files, species logs, read log tools. He can use these techniques and tools to understand, okay, to identify the data, to identify the deleted files, to identify the logs of the computers or system, what has been done. Then we can use computer trusted audit techniques to perform fraud identification and to gather the evidence. He can also use journalize of the software to prepare a hypothesis, like what if scenarios, like how the fraud might have occurred, which might include extraction of the data, processing of the data, analytical skills, analytical testing. Then they can use common software tools. Okay, Excel, Access. You might have heard about R Studio, or you might have about ACL. MS Access is one of them. Currently, Power BI, Tableau, a lot of things are there. Okay, common software tools which are there. Then data mining techniques, and with the AI, this has gone to another level. So with the predictive data analysis or predictive modeling, so with artificial intelligence, data mining techniques, it has gone to you can just predict the fraud, even where there are minimal chances, or it is very hard to identify. Then again, the laboratory analysis of the physical evidence and electronic evidence is one of the techniques where you can which you can use to gather the evidence. So these are some techniques which can be used for the digital forensics. It can be used by a forensic accountant to gather the evidence. Any doubt with respect to this? Any doubt, guys? No? No doubts? Okay. If no doubts, then let me show you a draft, you could say draft, or sample forensic audit report. Okay, forensic reports, fraud investigation reports, just for your understanding purpose. Just let me show you. So this is a draft forensic audit report, tentative forensic audit report, which is again available in the public domain. There is nothing, taken private and confidential. See, first of all, the contents of a forensic or fraud investigation reports. I have a background. I have a scope of work, procedure performed, observations, and limitations if are there any. So generally, you have an introduction paragraph where you provide a background. Okay, background about the incidents or / transaction. Okay, then you have a company overview, like if there is a company involved, then the overview. of company. It could be, management structure. Okay, a lot of things, a lot of details can be there. Summary of financials. Again, what is the summary of financials? What is involved? What is the transaction details and everything? What is the suspected amount involved? Scope of work. Reviewing a specific transaction, reviewing these transactions or whatever transactions. So what is the scope of work you are having? Okay. The objective, like, what is your objective? Accordingly, your scope will be defined. That, okay, we will review this, we will review this. Then procedures performed. What procedure have you performed to achieve the objective and to fulfill the scope? Like analysis has been done, review has been done. Okay. Review of ledgers, review of supporting documents, review of payment transactions, review of transactions, analysis of tender documents, desktop search of, desktop has been performed, other bidders related to address and everything, field visits, on-site visit to, gather the evidence further. Then observations, like what you have identified after performing all the details. Okay. Like what was your observation? The details with respect to the observation, you will include the amounts, you will include the names, you will include the recommend, what was the scenario, anything from specific, from extract from documents. Okay. It's just like, writing the story about the incident and whole transaction. Okay. Everything, writing in detail, whatever is there. So by flow charts, explaining the whole transaction in detail. When I come to an observation, I explain in detail what was the transaction, what is the thing, how it went from start to end, and what was the consequences, everything, what evidence I got, how I correlated. Okay. Like everything in detail, I will, even with the site photographs, everything is attached to a particular report, and provided in a report. Okay. With the details, like, okay, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. I went there, I identified, okay, there is no address present. I identified this is a related party or whatever it is. How the appointment has done, everything in detail with all the details, it is mentioned. Okay. Then along with the recommendations, along with the observations you identify, like with all the details, what you will do is you will provide, okay, who were involved, what was the amount involved, everything in detail, everything. Purchase, if any purchase has been done, and everything will be, you will provide in detail. Like everything, from smallest detail, you will provide in the report. And then if there are any limitation to the reports are there or not. So the limitations and everything. So this is how a draft forensic report look like. Okay. So this is one way to present a report, but again, the report presentation, report preparation is from, different from point to point. It depends upon the type of investigation. It depends upon the type of assignment, what type of report you are presenting, long form, short form. Again, both type of report is available. A short report where you just provide a crisp detail, summary, executive summary, observations in summary, and, like 1 pager, 2 pager kind of, a memo, or a long form report where you attach all the evidence, mails, extracts, and everything to present whatever you want to conclude with a specific conclusion. With a specific conclusion, correlating all the evidence, not speculating, but concluding. So there is a difference between speculating and concluding. I can speculate, oh, this might have happened. No. When I present a report, a forensic report, I say this has happened based on all the details, all the evidence I have, based on connecting the evidence, and it should be, definitive rather than, based on assumptions. When I prepare a fraud investigation report, it should be definitive. Trust me. I cannot go based on assumption. Oh, this might have happened. So this is something appearing to be linked. Okay. And then I'm saying, okay, this have happened. No, it should be defined. It should be based on the appropriate evidence. So this is how you prepare a forensic fraud investigation report. Any doubt? Any doubts, guys? Any doubt? No? Okay. If no doubts, then I'll suggest uh, please after this lecture go and read the material if you haven't. Practice more. The more you will practice, the more you will understand concepts and things here. I'll request to practice and read the study material. That is very very important. Only reading will not do. You need to practice it so in detail, so that you can remember the concept. And please participate and ask your queries, no matter what level of queries is. Like if it is small query, perfectly fine. If you don't understand, ask multiple times. That is fine, but ask. That is the more important thing. Also provide me your feedback. That is very important, because I can understand, with your feedback, I will be able to understand whether you are liking the lectures or not, whether you want something additional, or whether we are able to cater you appropriately. So that is very important for us if you can provide your feedback. Okay, guys. If no further doubt, then thank you, guys. Thank you for participating in today's lecture. I'll see you in the next lecture, and that will be updated soon. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time. Yes, sir.